Yo, it's Healing with Sam, episode 17. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's enjoying the ride. Gonna do this video sat down here because I've been sat down here making videos the last few days. I quite like it. It's nice. Feels wrong because usually I'm stood up making these Healing with Sam videos, but we'll give it a go. Trying not to be afraid of change so much. So, I think it's been a couple of weeks, has it, since the last one. And yes, we are due to get back to the story of how I have got to this moment where I'm at today. So I think in the last episode, where we were, before the last, maybe one or two, where I was speaking about things that had happened in the present, I think we were at the point where I was in Mexico, February 2024. Yeah. And had the experience on the training for the neo-emotional release facilitator training. David, shout out David again, got me up on stage to do some sort of a demonstration or something with someone who had a chronic illness, and he was asking me about it. He was like, okay, so it's something hereditary, so it's something that's been brought in by both parents. Obviously, he's interested in looking at the emotional kind of connection and root of that. And he took me through this process, and suddenly it rose within me, my father's anger. Like it was just, I just could sense it was not my anger, it was my father's anger. And then my mother's self-hatred. And so that was the moment that opened up this journey, which is, yes, been taking place for the 2 years since then, into what I believe to be the ancestral emotional root of this disease, the cystic fibrosis, that is expressing itself through me today. It's been a wild ride. And so I think I said at the end of the last video, the next place we'll go to is 2 months after that, with another ayahuasca retreat. And this really got opened up. And I was just looking in my book, the book I've been writing about this process, this journey as it's happening, to try and remember what happened. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to read out what I've written. I started reading the first few lines and I thought, I'm just going to read this out. So, this is the 16th of the 4th, 2024. I've just returned from another ayahuasca retreat with Jace Aguas Rindas and Chadamai. Another incredible week. Such incredible medicine. And it is, man. Like, it really is. It is. Just, incredible medicine. Like, medicine at the highest caliber, I always say. Like, ayahuasca. Incredible stuff. Beautiful. As always, I went in open to receiving any further guidance and support in the journey to healing, and as always, she obliged. Hard to put this one into words. Yeah, this was a crazy journey. The second ceremony was a lot, very challenging, the most challenging one to date, but I'll try and sum up what transpired. After the first cup, I was in the medicine quickly and deeply. And before long, I found myself desperate to get something out of me, begging Mother to take it out of me. Like, I remember this. It was just like, oh. And, it's also intense, like, when you're in these, like, psychedelic states, everything's so heightened and so just, like, amplified. And, like, and especially as you kind of get deeper and deeper into it, you lose your bearings sometimes in what's happening in your ability to just, like, be anchored and rooted and witnessing it all. You can get lost in it a bit. Begging Mother to take it out, and I could feel its darkness, and I could feel it was related to the cystic fibrosis. And in fact, in that moment, I felt like it was the cystic fibrosis. If I could offer a comparison, it felt like Venom, Venom in Spider-Man in the second one or something, where, like, it's like that end scene, and was it still Tobey Maguire? Spider-Man anyway has like become Venom, and he's trying to get it out at the end of the movie, and he's got those like metal pipes in the floor, and he's like going around hitting them, and like because the high-pitched noise is like getting the venom off him. And you know, if you've seen this movie, like that imagery of like it's screaming and like trying to cling to him, and he's like, "Rah, get it off me," you know, just like it was like that. It was like it was crazy. Felt like Venom in Spider-Man trying to cling to me as I was trying to get it out. Eventually it came out, and I felt an incredible shift. And in that moment, I realized what it was. It was my father's hatred. I could sense it around me, like wanting to cling to me again. And there was a part of me that wanted it to. A part that found comfort in its familiarity buried deeply within me. Yeah, see, this was interesting because it felt like it was like a connection to my father in some way, having his hatred inside of me, which I was unconscious of, obviously, up until this point, or till 2 months earlier. Like that was in there, but it was like a connection. It felt like a connection to my father that I didn't want to let go of. Yeah, and I realized in this moment that having cystic fibrosis was a choice. It was a choice that I could make, and it was a choice between carrying this hatred or choosing love instead. And so I had to ask myself, like, do I want to let go of the disease? Like, do I really want to let go of the disease? And I remember this, like, it wasn't a simple answer. Like, I had to search deep within myself to my innermost core to question what I really want. Do I really want to have cystic fibrosis, or do I want to let go? And it was unsettling. It was unsettling as I wasn't at all sure, but eventually found that I did want to heal and I wanted to love. Yeah, well, there was a period, I don't know how long it lasted. Obviously, time gets weird in there. I wasn't sure. Like, I really had to and be completely honest with myself and my core. Like, do I want to let go of this disease? But luckily I did. I wanted to choose love. Yeah, and this was crazy, right? I'll give some maybe a little backstory to this after, but I then embodied the spirit of the lion. And like vowed to protect my space as a space of love, a space that cannot be penetrated by this hatred. And it was like I could see, sense, feel it around me, like wanting to come back in and cling to me, and like a space thing. In that moment, I claimed my power. Yeah, this was crazy. In that moment, I claimed my power as a man, and I took over the responsibility of being a father to myself and also to my father. This was crazy. Yeah, I won't go into all that, but that was ayahuasca is mad. I then went through a process of feeling deeply abandoned by my father and feeling completely lost without him. This was crazy. Yeah, just this feeling of deep abandonment come up from the depths of just like, and just being lost without him. Like, I don't know where that come from, like whatever, but no, I don't know, you know, like, shout out to my dad. My dad's the man. If you're watching this, Dad, like, you know, best dad in the world. Love you, Daddy. But yeah, you know, we all carry these deep-seated feelings, whatever, from childhood and whatever, like, but yeah, and it was crazy because I remember Ag was Rindas then. As I was going through this, he like came over and I was like, can I come out for a wee with you? And it was like he was leading me then out of the door, and it just felt like he was my father in that moment. And he was like, it just felt so fatherly, the way he was like leading me out of the door, and I was just like, he was shepherding me out, like, yeah. And then we had this moment, I went for a piss, and then like the stars, like they have the most beautiful bit of land, like no light pollution. The stars are incredible, obviously heightened by the ayahuasca. And so we just stood there, and we've got our arms around each other's shoulder. And I was just looking at it, and I was just like, wow. I was just like, how could it all be? And he just looks at me and he goes, it just is. And I was just like, yeah. Just like fathered me in a moment where I really needed it. Like, yeah. Eventually I was found again and stood in my power as a lion, before, I'm not even going to explain the whole lion story, I'm just going to leave like that, but like the spirit of the lion came through me, and like I was literally like, there was all of this hate, this energy was just like around me, wanting to cling to me, and the lion just out of nowhere, and it was crazy basically. So I will give you the backstory. So like earlier in the day, I was resting in the afternoon, because this was the second night. I was resting in the afternoon, and as I lay down, I closed my eyes, and just instantly this image of a lion just came to me randomly, just flashed before my eyes, and I was like, and then at the start of the ceremony, we pull 2 cards from these 2 decks. One of them's a spirit animal deck. And the cards are always crazy, like they're always so pertinent to your journey. And I turned it over, pulled the lion spirit. And I was just like, oh, yeah, of course. But then, I don't know what happened, but all I can say is the spirit of the lion came in, filled me, and I was just like started like silently like roaring. Like this hatred wanting to come back in. I was just like, no, this is my space. This is a space of love. Like we ain't having all this hatred. And I was just like, like, and yeah, the spirit of the lion, there's been something that's been with me ever since, and has come to me in different journeys, both psychedelic and just like sort of emotional inward journeys. It comes through for me sometimes and is an ally that I can call on in certain situations. Shout out the lion. If you ain't like, that's gonna sound like fuck you on about to a lot of people, but some people will know. Yeah, at that point, eventually I was found again and stood in my power as a lion before transforming into a butterfly, which was cool. The butterfly was nice. It became this like lovely little butterfly. At this point, as I went up for the second cup, I had a profound sense of being healed from cystic fibrosis. I could feel something had come off me. I remember like calling out for the second cup, and I was just sat there kind of just like in disbelief at this whole huge process that had just taken place, of just like in this whole lightness I could feel of just this all having come off me. And in that moment I was just like, I think I've healed. Like, and if I reflect on that now, I think maybe I wrote about this, no, but as I reflect on that like afterwards and now, like it shows you, it's not like, oh, now you're healed. It shows you like, and this definitely makes sense of what's happened ever since then, right? To remove all of that hatred that I've carry within me, this ancestral, unprocessed, unfelt, undealt with hatred, that is going to be my healing, a large part of it, like, and that's the way it's been unfolding, like, of kind of, where I'm at today is like I've been through a process over the last couple of years where I feel I've completed that process of removing those things, that hatred and all different kind of things connected to it. Like, I feel I've cleared all of that within myself to a point where that's at the completion. Like, I've done what I need to do on my father's side, and now the mother's side has started opening up, and that's been interesting how that's related to everything that's happened over the last month with my body. But yeah, that's further down the line. The second cup. Yeah. So the second cup took me into the mother wound, and I saw myself in her pregnant stomach and felt her own wound of shame and self-hatred, which had then instilled itself in me, like in the womb, Instilled in me the feeling of being undeserving of life. Yeah, and this was something I processed. Like, there was a process of that feeling that went on for a while, of being undeserving of life. I don't deserve to live. That was a feeling that I processed for a while. There was quite a lot of that. That was quite a heavy one. Like, I just don't deserve to live. But yeah, I think I've transmuted all that, cleared all that as well. I feel like I should be living. I deserve to live. I'm cool. I'm fit for life. I don't deserve to live. I processed this and then tried to convince my mother that she is enough, that we are enough. And I became the spider. So I think the spider had become a thing in the last retreat I did, like the imagery of the spider. Obviously, like when you're having these trips with ayahuasca or any psychedelic or whatever, the imagery that you see, the kind of what we're calling the trip, and what can be the bad trip, these images and these like things that are playing out in our mind's eye are symbols of the subconscious, right? This is my interpretation anyway. These things are symbols, so this imagery is symbolic of things that exist within our unconscious, within our subconscious, and you have to kind of like get beyond, just because you can just, this is how bad trips happen a lot of the time, I think, is you get lost in that and then like freak out and like, this motherfucking spider, right? This spider that I'm seeing, like with my eyes open as well, this spider like on the edge of my like bed, like coming to like huge, scary, like horrible spider. You know, but if you get lost in that, but you have to then recognize like what's the emotion that is coming up from my subconscious right now that is connected to that, like, you know, and then connect to the body and just allow the emotion to process, and then you come back to peace and love, and you get the nice visuals that come with that, like but yeah, I became the spider. So the spider basically is, yeah, the symbolic image of the mother wound, this shame wound, this like I'm not enough, I don't deserve to live, that has like been passed through my mother's sort of side of the family. I became the spider, which was representative of that whole wound, and as the spider stepped, and oh yeah, as the spider, I stepped into the knowing that I am enough, and the spider just collapsed and faded away. Like this, I tell you, this spider is massive and scary and just like, and then I just allowed myself to become the spider. And this is parts work essentially, right? Like internal family systems, if you don't know. Just becoming that spider, loving the spider, and as the spider, telling myself I am enough, and then it just collapses and fades away. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I then embodied the lion again, and knew that this lion is now always with me, ready to fiercely protect the choice to love and the knowing that I am enough. Yeah. And so this was something for, I think, months after this would kind of be part of my sort of daily prayer, my daily meditation of just reminding myself, this is a choice, like I can choose to love. And obviously it's not that simple. All these processes are so complex and so much different moving parts and everything, but on one level, essentially, it's just a choice. It's just a choice I have to keep making to love and to be love and to embody love as much as I can. And yeah, choose to move beyond this hatred. And this is something that's kind of started coming up now on my mother's side, having what I feel to be completed the process. On my father's side is there's deep, intense like anger and rage and from the mother's side. And so it's the choice to work through that and to move beyond that. And these processes are always interesting, right? It's interesting as well because a lot of people have different opinions on what to do with emotions and how to kind of handle emotions, how to engage with them, how to sort of relate to them. Certainly, as it relates to deep repressed emotion, I think there is a certain amount of stored energy there that as it starts to come up, it's important to make space and allow that process to complete itself. Not getting caught up like in the stories of it and like wanting and telling yourself, oh, I got to get this up. But just, you just keep making, this has been my experience anyway, you keep making space for whatever is moving within you. Whatever stored energy, emotion is there will come up and does have an end point in my experience, you know, as it relates to emotion that has been repressed from the past and is now coming up to the surface because you're ready to confront it. just because I say that, just because I've been seeing a lot of posts lately about like this idea of just like, we're just getting caught in these loops and recreating these emotions and these feelings just to hold on to our identity. There's something to be said for that idea. My experience is, as it relates at least to deeply repressed feelings that were previously unconscious and are now becoming conscious, there's a process that has a start and end point in my experience, and like there's a process of transmutation that goes along with that transformation, and ultimately then expansion, and ultimately bringing you closer to love, embodying more love. Yeah, I'm just saying that just because that's something I've been thinking about today, like, and trying to take in different opinions and see if what fits with my experience. But yeah, I then had a sense of knowing that this hatred from my father was the root of the problem with the lungs, always coughing and spitting out this like disgusting mucus, like in hatred, like blah, 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 blah. And then the mother wound, the feeling undeserving of life, was responsible for the digestive issues that you have with CF. Not being able to digest food without taking digestive enzymes. As I reflect on this now, I mean, what do you say, really? In the days since, there has been plenty of these emotions flowing. I think that in these moments in ceremony where it feels like I have healed, I think what this is doing is showing the way to healing. Yeah, as I said, illuminating the path, showing me what needs to be done. I would expect that there will now be a process of feeling, releasing and alchemizing all of this hatred and feeling undeserving of life, which was previously buried in my unconscious. I guess we will have to see how it all develops. Crazy stuff, what a ride. And that is how it developed. So there was like a period of 2 months after this where every morning, and as soon as I woke up, all of this fucking anger and hatred of my father, like my father's sort of repressed anger and hatred, which had then been carried into me every day for 2 months, just like, first thing in the morning. I was in the van at the time, and I would wake up and start driving and doing physio whilst driving, and I'd just be like driving around and just like fucking screaming, shouting, just, letting myself embody and express that. And there was an end point to that, It was about 2 months. Generally, I find with these processes of things that I'm bringing up that have previously been repressed, 2-3 months, like if I give myself, once that fully starts moving and it's sort of coming up every day or most days, 2 or 3 months, and it brings itself to completion. Yeah. And then at a certain point, it opened up into beyond my father and into his father. And sort of we went then to where the genesis of my father's hatred came from. And we'll save that for another video. But yeah. And yeah, as I said also then, those feelings of being undeserving of life, I can't remember if that was around the same time or after or whatever, but yeah, for months, bringing up those feelings of just, I don't deserve to live, and yeah, there's been so many big feelings that I've processed as a part of this journey, and have ultimately alchemized and transmuted into now where I have a deep, because these things are unconscious, before they start coming up, right? So they're creating your unconscious beliefs and assumptions about yourself and the world. But you make them conscious, you go through that process of feeling, expressing, and then transmuting, and it melts back into your natural state, which is love, essentially. Yeah, and so it just always just brings me closer and closer to love. I now have a deep sense and a deep belief that I do deserve to live, whereas before I very much didn't, And the same with my father's hatred, do you mean that was there in me? And now it's not. We would see, unless it's going to come up again, but it doesn't seem to have. Yeah, we'll leave it there for now. One time for ayahuasca, one time for the spirit of the lion, one time for my father, one time for my father's hatred and my mother's self-hatred. And this, because this is the beautiful thing as well, right? And this is this idea of like disease is the cure. Like the disease is showing, like the disease is the healing, because the disease is showing you the physical manifestation of these issues, is pointing you to the underlying psychological, emotional issues, which you can then confront, heal, transform. Whether that leads to ultimate complete physical healing as a result, in a lot of cases for people it does. Whether in my case it will or not, we don't know. We're going to see. I'm going to complete that process. I'm taking a little rest at the minute because of everything that's happened the last month. I think I've decided to put a lid on the stuff from my mother's side for a little bit until my body comes back to a bit more strength, a bit more vitality. And then I'm going to continue with that process, and I'm going to come to that same point of completion on my mother's side. The stuff on my father's side, my grandfather, was crazy. Like, it was crazy. I got some crazy stories about that and how that came to completion. Maybe that's where we're going next week. Yeah, it's nice actually to have read that and reconnected with this, because as I was saying in one of the videos last week or something, it's easy to get caught up in these doubts, and I've been questioning a lot over these last few weeks, like, am I just tripping? Like, is this really happening? But then, yeah, I remember these experiences I've had, the knowings I've had, the feelings I've experienced, and the process of that and everything. Like, I'm fucking healing. I don't care. I'm healing with Sam. Yeah, or I'm just tripping. Have a wicked one. See you next week. Take it easy. Love to all.